Watches are becoming really quite mainstream. A lot of us are getting nice watches and the watch community is growing at a crazy rate. And so I thought I'd show you 5 ways in which you can completely destroy your watch. Welcome back to the channel, and as I mentioned at the start, we're going to be looking at 5 ways in which you completely destroy your watch. And watches are kind of similar to cars so far as what's under the hood can vary massively. You can have electric, you can have mechanical, you can have automatic, you can have manual, you can have highly complex, or you can have really quite simple. And it doesn't matter which watch you have, there's going to be something in this video that is relevant. Unless you have a Cartier G-Shock, because these things are pretty much indestructible. After the 5 points, I've also got a little story to tell you, kind of to help push you away from a certain mindset that we've seen online. This isn't about babying your watches, but this is kind of me sharing what I've done so that you can learn from my mistakes. For the first one, we're going to start off simple, and that is dropping. Your watch doesn't like being dropped. It doesn't matter what the salesperson has told you that ex-military unit uses this watch, or this watch has been up Everest, or this watch has been to the bottom of the ocean. That's all just sales patterns. There are tiny things inside your watch and they don't want to be hit about. Damage that you can expect when dropping a watch is scuffing up the steel, and that isn't really the end of the world. It kind of gives it a nice used tool look about it, makes it look a bit more beefy, seen action. One other thing that could happen is shattering the sapphire crystal, which is just annoying. You want that to be nice and pristine. Inside of the watch, you've got all the mechanics, all of these tiny cogs working together, and these things don't want to be hit. You've got the balance, which is a very fine spring attached to a wheel that is spinning back and forth. And this is really quite a delicate area. There will be a shock absorber attached to the top and bottom of your balance. Abraham Breguet created the first shock absorber in 1790. It's developed quite drastically, and each watch company has their own version of shock absorbers. But also materials and engineering has changed massively since then, and so watches are quite strong inside. Nonetheless, they don't like being dropped. Now, I'm not saying baby your watch. There is a middle ground between throwing your watch off a balcony and wrapping it in cotton wool. It's just don't be stupid when it comes to handling your watch. Now, not dropping an item that is valuable to you, means something to you, that's just standard. That's normal human behavior. The next bit is a bit more complicated, or rather, it's just quite a big change from the norm, and that's magnetisms. Watches do not like magnets. Basically what happens is inside a watch you've got these very fine steel springs. We all know that steel loves magnets, and so these tiny steel springs, they get magnetized and end up sticking to themselves. You can often tell that a watch is magnetized because suddenly you'll have a drastic change in accuracy. Now, although modern watches are brilliant at handling magnetic forces, a lot of us like older watches, and so we do need to be careful of them. There are now a lot of magnets around us in just our everyday life. Again, don't baby your watch, don't freak out about this stuff. Just be wary of your surroundings and what you're doing with your watches. Don't leave your vintage Omega sitting on a massive speaker system, because you might do it some damage. Equally, if you have a job that requires you to work around large magnetic fields, then check out the Omega Railmaster. Magnetism is measured in Gauss, and the new Railmaster can handle 15,000 Gauss. It's also a really good looking watch. The next point is probably one of the most common ways that people destroy their watch, and it's quite simply overwinding your manual watch. When it comes to putting energy into your watch, there's 2 main methods. You've got automatic, which means that there's a rotor on the back spinning around, and then the second is manually winding the mainspring. Most automatic watches, you can manually wind them, but you don't need to worry about overwinding them because they have a clutch on the mainspring, and that prevents the overwinding from happening. When it comes to manually winding your watch, don't do what my wife did and wind the watch until you physically can't wind it anymore, because then it's completely dead. I guess the best thing to do is let the watch die and then start winding it. Then your fingers will start to learn that the pressure that the spring is pushing against you, and then as soon as you feel that resistance of the spring, then that's the time to stop. As with all of these points, there are so many different watches out there, so if you're really unsure about what you're doing, then just give your authorized dealer a call. The next one is water damage, and this is a very misleading one. Just because your watch says it has 30 meters of water resistance doesn't mean you can go down 30 meters. You can barely wash your hands when a watch has 30 meters of water resistance. That's hyperbole. You can wash your hands. Each brand has its own approach and own guidance when it comes to what you can do with different water resistant watches. Personally, I'd be wary of washing my hands when wearing a watch that only has 30 meters of water resistance. You should only really start swimming with a watch when it has 100 meters of water resistance, and diving when a watch has 200 meters of water resistance. Lots of watches have good water resistance now. This Grand Seiko has 100 meters of water resistance. But if I got into the swimming pool with the crown out, then there's no water resistance. Always sort your crown out. Now the next point is really quite a geeky one, and I think this needs more attention. I don't hear that many people talking about it, and it's changing the date on your watch. Basically, do not change a date on your watch between 9 PM and 3 AM. That's probably going to come across the wrong way. What happens is when your watch gets to 9 PM, then the date changing process actually happens. That's when cogs start to engage to carry out that process of changing the date. It does finish around 3 AM, and between that time, a lot of cogs are engaged that usually aren't engaged. So if you try and interrupt that process, then you run the risk of damaging the really fine cogs that there are, and you do not want a little tooth from one of those cogs bouncing around inside your movement. A lot of travel watches are designed so that you can change the date at any time you want, but that's not the majority, and so it's safer to get into the process of not changing the date during that time. The safest time to change the date or the day on your watch is when the watch is at 6:30. That doesn't mean you have to wait until 6:30 in the afternoon to change the date on your watch. Just change the time so both hands are pointing down at 6, and then it's safe to do what you want. Whilst you're on the topic of looking after your watches, why didn't you treat your watch to a nice little suede watch pouch? This is a barkandjack watch pouch made out of really soft suede and handmade in Florence, Italy. It will keep your watch nice and snug if you're putting it in a suitcase or if you're just keeping it in your sock drawer. Jump over to barkandjack.shop to check out our watch straps and our watch pouches. And so now for the final point, and that is the mindset. It's the way of thinking. It's just summed up as don't be stupid. I know what it's like when you want to create content or want to create something that is eye-catching. That's why I titled this video How to Break a Watch as opposed to How to Safely Maintain Your Watch. It's a bit more eye-catching, it's a bit more attention-grabbing. When it comes to social media, we want to grab attention. We want to do stuff that either makes people think or makes people just engage with what we're doing. Hands up how many people have seen an Instagram post of someone making coffee on their watch. I know, it's crazy. Don't do that. It is just so wrong for your watch and for the coffee. The watch doesn't like it and it doesn't make good coffee. But to kind of push things a little further, I'm going to tell you a quick story. And if you've been following the channel, then you've probably heard this story before. But basically, I was on a long weekend down in Eastbourne on the south coast of England with my family. I knew I wanted to take an Instagram shot. I wanted to capture where I was, and I wanted to capture my Rolex Submariner in its kind of natural habitat. That was the pretentious thing that I was going with. I thought it'd be a cool shot to get the watch just on a few stones with the water just rolling over the top. And it's what could go wrong? So I carefully put the watch down on these pebbles, got my camera lined up, brought it up to my eye, saw the watch through the viewfinder, and took the shot as the water came in. As the preview showed up on the camera, I checked it out. It was pretty crap. It didn't work. I was too early. The water hadn't got to the watch, and also the bracelet looked a bit crap. I rushed it. So as the preview left the viewfinder, pulled the camera away from my eye and went down to get the watch to rearrange it and take another shot. It wasn't there. The watch had gone. It'd been sucked into the sea, and I immediately panicked for two reasons. One, because I'd just lost my fairly new at the time Kermit. And two, about 5 minutes prior, my wife, who was sitting behind me, had told me to not be stupid. And I'd been stupid. Me panicking, I ran fully dressed into the English Sea, which was freezing cold. My wife strapped the kids back in the buggy and she took her shoes off and she joined me in the sea. You know you found a good wife when she postpones the barking, when she appreciates that now probably isn't the right time to tell you that you've been a prick. To save that for later and focus on the task at hand, which is to save the watch. But alas, we couldn't find it. The English Channel, the English Sea is brown and muddy. You cannot see through that stuff. We were freezing cold, legs were going numb in the water, and just had to give up. Couldn't find it. So I walked out of the water. as I walked out in the shallow water off to the side, I saw a little glisten under pebbles. I don't know how I saw my Kermit. It was a 2, 3, 4 meters to the right of me as I was walking out, so on my left. So it had been sucked into the water and then pushed across. And I just grabbed it and I couldn't believe my luck. So my point is, stupid things are going to happen when you do stupid things. It's much safer just to take risk shots than to try and take risky shots. I say that though, but fast forward 12 months and I took this shot on Brighton Beach. Eyes were on the watch continuously and I just took a whole load of shots and it worked out. Anyway, thanks for watching and I hope you got something from this video. If you have any extra advice or horror stories, then drop a little comment down below and share it with the rest of us. If you like this video, do give it a thumbs up. And if you like the style of this video, then hit that subscribe button down the bottom there and a little bell icon so you get notifications when I drop a new video. If you're interested in the straps and accessories that we have for watches, jump over to barkandjack.com and there's a little shop button on the top right hand corner. Just click on that and you can check out the products that we have. Equally, hang around on barkandjack.com and check out the articles that we have over there. We have a pretty epic story by a Royal Marine Commando who talks about his journey with watches and his relationship with watches and also breaking down a few myths around military watches. It's a really awesome read. Final thing, if you're on Instagram, give me a follow at barkandjack and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.